What's up, guys? Sergeant G here from the Stone Vet USMC. I just want to take this time to tell you I apologize for this week's episode. There were some technical difficulties when it came for the microphone and the audio. Been having a hell of a time getting Lynda Steele back out here to re-record the episode, but like any entrepreneur, any nonprofit owner and business runner, it's hard to find an opening in your schedule to try to meet up to be able to do the interview. Please bear with me this week with this episode. I understand the audio is crappy. I did everything I could. I even talked to some audio people and they said they couldn't help me. So I did the best I could to try to minimize the noise that was involved with the microphone itself, man. Please take time, listen to the episode. I know it's going to suck, but I guarantee you next week's going to be a lot better episode. I fixed the audio. I was able to bring on Frank from Crayons Ready to Eat. I'm super excited to show you what amazing things he's doing. But Lynda, she has an awesome story. She's the first woman to be in the arty field in artillery with the Army. It's a great story. I hope you guys take time to listen to it, man. Remember, guys, I apologize for this. I appreciate you supporting me, supporting my channel, man. Continue hitting that subscribe button and listening to the new episodes coming out every Friday and every Wednesday, man. Remember, hit the Stone Vet. We got your six.
Yo,
We chillin', get high.
shit crazy.
There we go. All right. What's up, guys? Son G here from the Stone Vet USMC. Happy Friday, guys. How you guys doing this Friday, man? In Oklahoma, the weather's getting crazy, dude. It's been nice and cool lately. Like I can't believe it's June and it's fucking
Still raining.
and it's 60 degrees outside.
Sunday.
I don't believe it.
Yeah.
Like I can't believe it. Like usually right now we're sitting about 95, 105, right? You know, I appreciate you guys coming to hang out with me on this Friday, man. I got a great guest today, man. I'm super excited to bring on Lynda, an Army veteran here, who's making a purpose, of making a difference in our community. Like I tell you guys, that's one of the biggest struggles we have after getting out of service is what the hell do I do now? What is my purpose? What is my drive? What do I need to do in my life now? I done spent 4 years, 14 years to 40 years, and the only thing I know is go to work every fucking day.
Yeah.
Go to PT when they tell me to go to PT, go to freaking work when they tell me to go to work, go to chow, come back from chow, get off work, and do it all over again.
Yeah.
For your whole time on service, right? Then you get out and you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to be doing now, man? So I love doing my show because this is my therapy session. This is my therapy. This is my therapy.
Is that how you figured out what you need?
That's how I figured out one of the things I wanted to do. So maybe one day you guys subscribe enough or share enough with this, you can start paying the bills too. You know, I could be like Jocko, Mr. Joe Rogan, or all any of those big time podcast people out there that are making money doing this, right? And so, like I tell you guys, don't forget to hit that daggone subscribe button and share this information out so everybody has an understanding, man. So, like I said, I got Lynda here. Lynda was a 12-year reservist. She was a reservist. Don't give her shit. She still signed that damn guideline that we all signed. We know how we feel about reservists, but I mean, it happened. I mean, she served our country just like we did. You know what I'm saying?
Some people can only do one thing at a time. I can do two. I can do two.
Right? She's not going to be a civilian and fucking serve in the military, right? So, how you doing this Friday?
I'm not doing bad. Trying to stay dry.
Right.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it doesn't get humid later. Now that I'm wearing this hoodie.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what's gonna happen.
Oh, man, you can get real right and then just all of a sudden it's hot as hell for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, even though I'm a reservist, I'm still a transplant to Oklahoma.
Yeah. She's transplanted.
I'm from the desert. I'm from Phoenix.
Phoenix area.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a dry.
Yeah, it starts hot and it's hot.
Yes.
Yeah. Here, not so much.
Yeah, but it's great. I love it. Yeah, my brother lives in Phoenix. He lives out in the Phoenix area.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's like, move out of town. When it gets 120 plus, they tell you to take your shit out of your car so it don't melt. It's too hot, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like all of our car places always advertise this car has AC, and I realized when I moved to Oklahoma, like that was an Arizona thing. I'm like, do you guys have AC in here? And they were like, every car does.
Every car has AC.
It's a selling point in Arizona.
So you get some time, like,
Yeah.
let's go get some shit in the fucking guard, dude. She did some.
Just a little bit.
She
Yeah.
did some shit
Yeah.
in the guard, dude, which is free. It's impressive, dude. I mean, you not only when you join the reserves, said that what was your first job when you was in the reserves? What was the first thing that you did while you was in the reserves?
So I was a 92 Alpha maintenance supply, and we worked with the mechanics, and we made sure our trucks had parts and our vehicles stayed running. And that's what I decided to do in the civilian world as well.
So you were like a shopkeeper, like
yeah,
like a shopkeeper, man. I was an engineer. I was an engineer, so I was working on diesel engines. I worked on
okay,
diesel engines for 9 years. You know what I'm saying? So you have an understanding of the aspect of the maintenance shop, the maintenance.
that's all I know.
Right?
Yeah, that was my world. For 12 years. That's all I knew. Civilian and military. I worked with diesel mechanics, and so like getting out of the military for me was kind of the same.
Right.
Because when I got out, I also quit my job and started a nonprofit thing. So like everything was gone.
Everything.
Yeah. 2 years ago, it was just I was in the military. I was on the gun line. I was doing all of these things. I was working with diesel mechanics, and I got a hold of this issue that was happening in my combat role, and what I saw was happening to these men, and I just like did a 160 and just totally changed everything in my life.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. So
you said you signed. We were talking earlier. She was saying that she went from the 92. I don't know fucking Army lingo.
yeah.
I don't know. The MLS is.
If I had some
You got
crayons,
letters.
yeah,
You
if I
got
had
letters
some crayons, I could draw it out for you.
But you went from the 92 Alpha into Artie, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you were saying? Like you transitioned because they were getting rid. They're phasing out, right?
Yeah, we were overstrength. I mean, I was a part of an entire.
You were like a almost like a riff for say you're just too much.
Exactly.
There's too much of you. They had to downsize it, right?
Yeah.
And so you went on and you became an Artie, a fucking Artie.
Yes. Bravo all day. Yeah. When I saw that, I mean, just shooting cannons and getting to understand, how to be a part of a small team like that, how to, do this MOS. When I originally enlisted females, all you could be was like an MP, was the closest you could get. And I tried that and got into trouble. And they were like, "You're going to supply," and I was like, "Damn it." So to get that opportunity, I felt like it was huge.
Right.
And I was put on a 5-year waiting list where for 5 years I had to hump rounds down to the gun line. And so I was like, damn it, y'all trap me. I was like, here I was in maintenance supply.
Some shit.
Now I'm up on this hill humping rounds. I was like, I wanted to be down this hill over here.
No, they ain't light. The rounds ain't light either.
No. One box is 213 pounds.
So
yeah.
actually hump the rounds.
Yeah. I was going to earn it.
Yeah, no shit. I mean, they're like, all right, you want to do this? They're going to fucking, we got a female that wants to do our job. Let's fucking make her earn it then.
Yeah.
We're all dickheads. The fucking men are all fucking dickheads in the military. When we see a female trying to come do our job.
Oh, yeah.
We're all
assholes. It's a power struggle. Yeah, especially when I'm 5'3", and I'm about 140 pounds. I'm like, go fuck yourself. Like, you're not going to tell me what I can't do. And it was cool because we built that camaraderie. It was earned. It was 100% earned.
Absolutely.
And so all of those times, learning how to even just properly build around, take care of it, make sure that you and your crew was safe. You met all of your safety measures, and you didn't just load something to get it out the tube. Like you learned each other's accountability.
Right.
You learned to keep each other safe. You learned that meaning. That was something supply can't teach you, or even just having a support MOS can't teach you.
Absolutely, and that's the biggest. Like I said, that's the biggest thing. I mean, with the camaraderie, that is what gets lost when we get out of service. You do some time and you build that camaraderie because you have a job. And the job has to be met, right? You have a mission you have to meet, and you can't do the mission by yourself. Like that's not a one-man job. You know what I'm saying? Because even if you look at the elite and the best, like snipers don't do it by themselves. It's a two-man team.
Always.
You got a spotter and you got the shooter, right?
Yeah.
Both y'all can shoot, but one of y'all's a spotter and one of y'all's a shooter. So you build that team, you build that camaraderie, and I think that's one of the biggest struggles that we deal with as veterans is that when I get out, I don't have that brother to my left and to my right.
Yeah.
I can't go bullshit with this guy. I can't just hang out with him, right? Mm-hmm. Because now I got out and I got to do a job that I apply for jobs that I don't even know if I'm qualified for.
Yeah.
And then you go do the job and you're like, I don't know if I even want to do this job because it's not who I am. It's not what I am. And there's
just like an emptiness.
Yeah.
Because we were even even being in the guard, for me, I always kind of had a different type of personality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, I worked with diesel mechanics. I didn't have a lot of female friends.
Right, because there's not a lot.
There was none in the civilian world.
When I was in the Corps, I think I had females, but they never fucking did the job. There was always a struggle, you know what I'm saying? They were engineers, but they were always in the office. They never fucking did the job. But I had one girl. She was rough, dude. She was backwoods redneck fucking. She was rough, right? She was rough on the eyes, but she got her ass out there. She busted her knuckles. She busted her fucking knuckles with you. She break fingers with you just to get a fucking engine into the fucking machine, you know. And so
it's equally as hard being that female though too.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean? Because like I went through that even on the gun line, where I just simply wanted to do my job.
Right.
And I had, a gunny come up to me and be like, "Look, you have to go back and take a shower." And I was like, "Excuse me? Like, are we all going back? Like, why do I have to go back and take a shower?" And you're like, or some shit, blah 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 blah. Female's got a shower, and I was like, "Yeah, if I'm on my period." I'm not there, and then he's blush red, and I was like, oh, so we're not ready to have this conversation, and so it wasn't any different in the civilian world for females like that either,
right.
If you wanted to just simply do this job, because you felt that you could do it, or that you would be a contributing member of the team, there's not a lot of men who understand that type of female.
No,
and we dive out the military for that all the time, right? I unfortunately did this to myself in the civilian world too, and it wasn't any different. I think acclimating to just being used to seeing females around is something that we just have to make a decision we're going to do as a society.
No, it is. It sucks. It sucks. I guess I got my wife. I've been with her for 21 years now. She's like, it's fucking hard for being a woman. It is. It's hard for you women to go out there and find a job and say that I'm equally as valuable as fucking Joe. You know what I'm saying? I'm equally as valuable. And it's true. Don't get me wrong. We do live in a sexist fucking society where women, you have to take that extra step. You have to prove yourself to people. But no, I know what the fuck I'm doing. I can do this. I know who I am. And I know what I can do. And I know what I can provide for the company,
Yeah.
And for you, I'm sure you've had to deal with it. I'm sure you've had to prove yourself multiple times. No, I can fucking do this.
Yeah.
I'm the same.
And sometimes it's not just my actions I have to prove it. It's my consistency to stand up to whoever is in front of me, like, this is my fucking job.
This is my job. This is what I can do.
And it comes with this mouth. Right. That is my job.
This is my job. This is what I do. This is who I am. This is what I do, right? And I understand. It sucks because we do live in a society like that. It's like that where it's just like you as a female, so I got plenty of females. I've had plenty of females on the show.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of shows.
I've had plenty of females on my show as well that have suffered one of the biggest things in MST. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I just couldn't. From my standpoint, I never knew that it was so as rampant as what it is. MST within the military. I was not aware of it. You know what I'm saying? But being able to bring these guests on my show, I'm like, this fucking sucks. Like you have to. I got 3 daughters inside, and I was like, this is like I don't want them to join the military. I don't want any of my kids to join the military. Except honestly, there's no fucking purpose.
Yeah.
Do I believe everybody should? Yeah, everybody should fucking join the military. Just so you can understand it, but I don't want my kids to do it. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like that shit. Like, no, hold on. You don't because the shit that we gotta deal with. We deal with a lot of shit. You guys know. You know the demons that you deal with on a regular basis. It sucks because you gotta deal with them every single day.
Yeah, what we do comes with the sacrifice.
Yeah.
But the lessons that we learned couldn't have come from anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had enough things happen to me in my military career that were positive and negative that I still would rather take that over civilian life.
Well, yeah.
Bro, I would rather have my issues as a veteran than have issues as a civilian.
Yeah. To
be honest.
Okay.
And to be totally fair. And I think maybe that's something that my service taught me was I had to walk both paths. I got to see where the military failed the soldier, and I got to see where the civilian world failed the civilian.
Well, we always failing each other.
Yeah.
You're always gonna.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing is trying to find. Like I said, when you get out, what is your purpose? What are you doing now? What is it? Like you said, you're gonna fail as a civilian. You failed as a military. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna fail at life. I try to teach my son. He's 16. I try to teach him. I say, you're gonna fail in life.
if you don't fail, you're doing something wrong. You know what I'm saying? It's a suck. Yeah, I said, but look at all the motherfuckers who have done it.
Mm-hmm.
Look at fucking Bezos for fucking Amazon. Look at fucking whatever the fuck the dude does Apple.
Yeah.
They all started in a fucking garage trying to figure out what the fuck do I gotta do? What is my purpose? What is my drive? What is it that I want to be? What do I want to be? You know what I'm saying? My son always asks me, I'm like, fuck my birthday's coming up, and it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm almost 40 years old. I don't know what the fuck I want to be.
Yeah.
I don't know what my drive, what my passion is. My passion is this: to come and shoot the show with my brothers and my sisters, and talk about what they're doing, their drive, their purpose, and how we as a community can help you guys grow.
Yeah.
And allow you to succeed, right? Because in life, if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
That's what I try to tell my kids. You don't know what you don't know. Plain and simple. The nonprofits that are out there, I didn't realize how many veteran nonprofits there are. Tons.
Yeah.
Tons. I talk.
Yeah, we are not lacking in support.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Finding each other.
Finding each other, though. How
Yeah.
do we do it? You know what I'm saying? Just like I tell people with the transition. I don't know how the transition is for you since you're already a civilian and you're playing Army. You know?
Okay.
But you know what I'm saying? I mean, for active duty people, so like I said, active duty, we do it. It's our job, it's our life. We do it all day long, right? You know? So when we transition out, the transition sucks for us because we don't have anybody showing us these are the resources that are out there for you.
Yeah.
Let's get you a resume written up. Let's get you disability.
I think everybody assumes that guard soldiers have that.
Oh, no, and I don't think you guys do. I don't know because I don't know. Like, what was your transition when your time came to an end? What was your transition?
Mine was terrible.
Was it
terrible? It was like I was even less important than I was already.
Because you're already a civilian. You already got a job.
Well, and like my problem was COVID happened 10 days before my re-enlistment.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, I had 12 years with the intent to re-enlist. And I had some messy sergeants who didn't like me. Yeah. So, you know, what's difficult, like, let's just be honest, right? When you're active duty, you have an opportunity to check on your paperwork, and your every day is centered around making sure your stuff is straight, right? Mine is not.
No.
You know, most kids right now who are in the National Guard after 4 or 5 years don't even know how to log into their iPerms. You know, like, it's something that's just not even inherently taught to National Guard soldiers. So, like, for me, I didn't get it out processed. Really? It was like, well, COVID happened, you didn't sign your re-enlistment paperwork. Bro, it's been a year. I'm like, where's my DD 214?
Oh, shit, right?
Could I have something? Like, even maybe like, yeah, was I a part of something? You know, like, I still haven't received anything. They turned in my gear without me, you know, because you guys have a dedicated place that you go, right? You have a base and it's fortified and everything else. My National Guard unit was an old DMV spot over in Shawnee, Oklahoma. So I got to drive 45 minutes, and if those assholes don't want to answer the phone, I'm not driving. So they just turned in my gear without me.
Oh shit.
Yeah, now I'm over here like, oh, well. This one time, I think I did like 12 years in the Army, but then they let me go like I was never there. Yeah, so like,
so maybe the transition's even worse.
It's terrible.
What about you guys? You guys that are watching the show, you guys reservists, how was your transition? What is it? Is it as bad as Lynda's here? Is it as bad as her transition, trying to get the hell out? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's nothing.
But that is one of the biggest struggles. Like, I mean, so for you guys, it's as much of a struggle as it is for an active duty person. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the biggest things that sucks. You know, is that nobody shows you. Nobody says there's not a website you can go to that shows you all these STEAM resources that are out there to help you. What do I do when I get out? How do I get a resume written up about what I've done? You know, how do I go about collecting unemployment? How do I go about GI Bill? How do I go about this?
Getting my medical records.
How do I get my medical records? So, I mean, the transition obviously sucks.
Yeah.
So you as government, you obviously suck at helping us. When it comes down to it.
Well, especially like, for instance, guard soldiers do the majority of their medical stuff just happens in the civilian world.
Right.
Nobody tells you to track down that stuff.
Right.
Nobody, you know, like, there's no medical person at my National Guard armory because I was in a combat MOS. So there were only 13 Bravos, one admin person, one supplies person, one readiness person. Other than that, nobody's helping you.
Right.
You know, so you're like,
what the fuck fuck do I do? That's what I mean. That's one of the struggles. That's what I was trying to. I talked with Ryan from Legend Construction not too long ago. That's what I was telling him. I said, dude, we get screwed over. I mean, because he was a recruiter, so when he transitions out, it's different because it's almost like a civilian.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because he's a recruiter, so he's not attached to a unit. He's not attached to like a major unit where you can go. Because they give you a week-long class and say, okay, here's a week-long class. What the hell is a week going to teach me that I've done for the past 4 years?
Yeah.
The past 14 years. What is that going to teach me
in
a week? What can I learn in a week? You know what I'm saying? How do I go? It's going to take
or
me
was
longer.
it even like in conjunction with the community you were around when you were like, where did you PC out of?
So when I got out of the Marine Corps, I got out of Hawaii, in Hawaii, Kaneohe. And so they gave me a week-long class. So here's a week-long class that you can go to help you get out. The only benefit that I had is that I had a Navy person in there that helped me with my disability started, get my disability started. You know, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was at 30%, right at 30%. I just recently got my 100%. It took me 11 years, but I got my 100%, you know? But that's me going and fighting and talking to you guys who've done it. I've got a lot of vets who got their 100%. I said, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to do it. This is how you go about doing it. But like I tell you guys, I said, we have to build our community around us, right? That's what we do. If we don't build our community around us, who's going to help us?
Exactly.
Our brothers and sisters have already done it.
Yeah.
They've already done it.
They have the knowledge.
They have the knowledge. They can tell you, this is how I did it. It might be able to help you, it might not, but let me tell you what I've done to help, you know? And that's why I always stress on the show is that you, as a veteran, you have to build your community. Because if you don't build your community around you, you're gonna feel like you're alone and there's nobody there to help you.
Yeah.
That's what I tell you guys. You have to build your community around you wherever you live. I don't know Portland. I don't know San Diego. I don't know freaking Maine or New York or Tampa, Florida, or wherever. I don't know these areas. But there are hundreds of thousands of veteran nonprofits.
Yeah, they're Google search away.
Google search away.
Google search away from knowing all of the nonprofits or veteran-based organizations in your area.
And that's one thing that I tell you guys about is that you guys have to. Does it suck getting out? Yes, because you're like, I'm getting out because I hate this. People ask me, do you miss the Marine Corps? I don't miss the Corps.
Just the people.
I miss my brothers. I miss my sisters. I miss that camaraderie that I had when I was there. That they were always there with me. I never felt alone. I never felt by myself.
Well, that's one thing I thought I had over you active duty guys was like, okay, I'm a National Guard soldier, so everybody I drill with is also lives here.
Yeah,
you know, like when I get out, y'all are gonna still be here.
Right.
No, they don't call you either. You know what I mean? Like, no. I thought I had it solid. I was like, I'll just do 12 years, you know, and we're all living in the same state. We all bought houses around here. I mean, how could we avoid each other?
Right?
Yeah, it turns out you can. Just like active duty guys.
It sucks though. It sucks because because I even tell you guys that we all have lives.
Yeah.
We all have lives. I got a wife. I got 7 kids. I got a job. I got all this shit, right?
Yeah.
But I said we have to take time to reach out to each other, to talk to each other, and say, "Hey, man, how you been? I was thinking about you today. I was make sure you was good. I want to make sure you're good."
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's days that suck. There's some days that just fucking kick you in the nuts. And you're just like, I'm done.
Well, that was last week.
Right? You know what I'm saying? But it sucks, you know what I'm saying? And it sucks because that's what I tell my wife. I said, I just put the bitches in the box and I try to put them on the shelf and push them as far back as I can. But you know, and it sucks when those bitches fall out. Like, I can't deal with you right now. Like, why did you fall now? Like today, out of all days. Like, I'm fucking knee deep in shit right now, and you decide to come off the damn shelf.
Yeah, like I wanted to think about
like I want to deal with your shit right now. I have enough shit I'm dealing with. You know, it sucks.
I think with the same box fell for me.
You know what I'm saying? You're like, what the hell is wrong with me? That's what I think. So we all understand that the U.S. government has failed us when it comes to transitioning out of military, out of active duty service, or guard service. Yeah. Out of transitioning from the armed forces, we understood that the DOD government don't get you shit about us.
Or we are really each other's resources. Stop complaining and thinking that the government was supposed to be.
Supposed to help us, right?
And the reality is we did our time together to learn from each other.
Right.
And like when I used to work at a Tinker Air Force Base, and I also do this thing on Wednesdays called Coffee with the Vet.
Yeah.
And both of those things had one thing in common. Veterans love to help each other out.
Absolutely.
You don't even have to ask. You know, they're more like, wait a second, you haven't filed your VA paperwork yet, Lynda? What are you doing? You know,
Right.
like, oh my
No,
God.
it's true. It's true. We love helping each other.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is that we love talking with each other. We love hanging out and enjoying the time and camaraderie. This is why I do the show. As I said, we love to hang out and talk and just, oh yeah, let me tell you about my age. Yeah, some shit happened like that before. You know,
Yeah.
so we can sit around. We can sit around the fucking table and just bullshit, just hang out and enjoy the time together. You know. So now you've gotten out, right? You've gotten out of the army, right? You're done. You're 12 years. You said, I'm done. I'm not doing this no more.
I'm not dealing with you people.
I just can't deal with the ignorance. It's the stupidity anymore. And now Linda's done a lot of shit. Like, I don't even know what to tap on. Like, I could tap on this, or I could tap on that. And I was like,
y'all really don't even know. Like, he's not lying.
She keeps her head moving. Her brain keeps moving, so the demons can't come down. So she can move on to the next thing.
Has to be.
So
it has to be, because when that rain slowed me down, I was like, "There's my boxes."
Yeah.
No, boxes are coming.
You're starting to slip off the shit.
Yeah.
And so you started an app, right? You have an app.
Yeah. So it's in development right now. We have you can't go out and find it. If you find me, I can create you an account and you can kind of see it behind the scenes. But yeah, I started an app called Civil Rights Matter, and we got featured in Forbes last month. And they were just like, well, how are you doing this? You know, because I keep telling everybody I did it for free, and I did. I read a whole bunch of books, and I Googled how to make an app for free, and I found an answer. And so
Google, right?
I'm telling you, Google saved my life. But I started just trying to figure out how to give us back our rights. Right. And that's what I learned in my time in service. Was every single time I got in trouble, it was some sort of higher up commander or somebody said, well, the policy said. The policy said. And I was like, okay, our stuff, you know? And what I realized was civilians don't know their policies.
Right.
Oh my God. You know, I was just like, this is what's wrong with you people. I was like, you realize that you're upset with how this agency or this, you know, job treats you, but they're allowed to because the policy said.
Policy.
Yeah. So you got to know your policy in order to know how to protect yourself. That's how I got it. You know, in Article 15. Like,
shit, right?
That's how you learn these things.
You're absolutely right, because I mean, I'm still dealing with the shit at work, like policy, right?
Policy.
Right? They tapped me because I self-identified and said yes. I smoke weed to deal with the shit that the government gave me. Yeah. I went to fight for your freedom to be able to be my supervisor, and now you're tapping me saying, "Oh, well, you're not allowed to smoke weed." Okay, I got you. We're gonna fire you. No. Your policy.
Always pay attention.
States that I have a last chance agreement right here because I self-identified. I didn't pop out on the piss test. I told you I smoke weed.
Yeah.
I've never popped out on the piss test. I self-identified. I told you. Yes, I smoke weed.
So if you're like a civilian coming across this post, right, or coming across this video, what you'll understand is every form in our careers, have it be reserve, guard, or active duty, everybody cared about those policies. And we knew our policies. You cannot mess with me if I know my policies. Right. I know my bun is 3 inches from my head because the policy on this page said so. Well, I know that. I know something about ponytails.
Yeah, you go with ponytails.
Yeah, but if you talk to civilians, you know, civilians will just go tell on themselves. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, bro, no, the policy said if you just told them first, you wouldn't be in trouble.
Right.
So basically what my app is taking that first step and making a second step, which says, let's say you texted your boss and you said, no, man, I self-identified. Here's the screenshot to that policy. Right? And then he responds with, okay, cool. You screenshot that, you screenshot that text message, and you send it up to my app, right? Your personal documentation account. And that is the first step to you guys documenting on behalf of yourself. Every boss does it to you. Your spouse does it to you, right? An attorney will do it to you. Everybody on their behalf, a state agency will do it to you. Every time you sign something, you communicate with them, you do whatever, it is saved into their little bank of documentation of how they, according to their job, protected a policy.
Right.
You should be doing the same for yourself.
No shit.
We should be doing the same thing for ourselves.
Oh, it's very true. It's very beneficial to understand what your rights are as an American citizen.
Or if and how you're being discriminated against.
Right.
You know, nobody can discriminate against you if you can't prove you've been discriminated against, because it is your job to prove that.
Right. And it
Yeah.
is.
We would like to give a huge thanks to Rafa 180. Rafa 180 offers pure medicinal CBD and products made locally. They walk alongside individuals to achieve a healthy lifestyle with options needed by each person. You can learn more about them on Facebook at Rafa CBD, their website www.rafa180.com, or email at rafacbd@gmail.com. They truly believe your journey matters.
That's the hardest struggle. I mean, that's one of the struggles I had. I went and filed. I went to try to file an EO complaint.
Yeah, been there.
And they told me that I couldn't file an EO complaint because I'm Hispanic.
So what?
Because I fall under the white category.
Did you record this? Did you have this recording?
See, if I would have had the app, I would have fucking recorded it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I'm telling you, every time I hear stories like this, I'm like, man, if only you had this app.
No shit, right? But yeah, they told me because I classify as my nationality as white because all the documentation, because there's nothing there for Mexicans. Because I fall under the white category, I can't file an EO complaint against white people. I said, well, who the fuck said that? Like, where's this documentation? Where is this policy at? Where is this documentation at? And I'm like, all right, I'll go from that angle. That's fine. I'll let that one slide. I'll let it go the way it wants to go. You know, and I've gone to my boss. I don't want to do this job anymore. However you want to see it, however you want it to go. I don't want to do this anymore. I've done it. I fixed it. It was broke for 3 years. You're paying people more money than me to run this job, and they broke it. And I came in with a lesser pay and fixed it and got it back into compliance per the policy.
Yeah.
And I'm tired. I'm done. I don't want to do it no more. I did everything I can with it. So, okay. That's it. I'm like, well, we'll see where the hell it goes now.
Yeah. See, for me, I always think, like, there's going to be something that happens down the road, and they're gonna be like, well, remember when that one guy worked here and he said blah, blah, blah. Bro, I'm not even kidding. I record all my phone calls. I was like, what do you think he said to me? No, here it is.
This is what you said. This is what you said. This is what
because, you know, I went through my time in the service. I got an Article 15. You know, I was barred from promotion. And what was crazy is I was punched in the face by an NCO. Okay, I was an E4. She was an E5. She was cooler than me. You know, like, her husband was, and that's the difference about the guard too, is, you know, you can be in different units all over the state, so people don't check your relationship statuses. You know, her husband's a commander or a captain in some other unit. You know, nobody cares about Specialist Steele. You know, like, push that under the rug. And so we all called IG back home.
Yeah.
And what we didn't realize, you know, is IG and the command, well, they get paid by the same ass person. Yeah. You know, and they're all trying to protect that same ass policy. Nobody cares about Steele's eye being messed up. Right. You know. Right. That's the NCO of the year last year who just punched a specialist this year. So we got to figure this out.
We got to squash this to make it not
anybody. Yeah. So I get the Article 15 because the policy stated that there was a way you file an IG complaint. You got, you know, you can't jump the chain of command and you can't blah, blah, blah. I never documented, you know, that my first sergeant was ignoring me. Yeah, exactly.
Provide no way for people to document
on behalf of themselves. Your civil rights, what your boss does, or that policy, and how they use that policy to hurt you, right, or to make an effect on you. That should be documented. Because how are we going to change these policies if we don't know how they're affecting us?
Right.
How are we going to change, you know, these laws if we don't know that they have real consequences?
Right, absolutely.
And so, you know, being that first female artillery woman here in Oklahoma, everyone was like, "How'd you get involved with dads?" You know, and
dads, right?
That's what I do.
And that's the biggest thing. So you have this app that's helping fund your nonprofit that you started.
Yeah.
So what is the nonprofit that you started here in Oklahoma? What's the name of the nonprofit you started here in Oklahoma?
It's called A Child's Worth. Yep, and you can find us on achildsworth.org. And what we do is we create innovative resources and co-parenting solutions so that parents can maintain equal time with their kids while being qualifiers for whatever resources they need to better their lives.
Right.
Which is totally different than how we have it in the world today.
Right.
So underneath a child's worth, we have Furnishing Fatherhood, which was my first resource that I created, and we furnished homes for all dads who had gone through a divorce or separation.
Wow.
And the first houses we started furnishing were those soldiers in my unit, because I like went into this all male battery, and like 60% of these men who were also only every other weekend dads, you know, who had done 3 combat tours, who had been 15, 20 years of their life in the military, and all of them only had their kids every other weekend, and we were civilians the majority of the time. So
every other weekend is drill weekend, ain't it?
Exactly. And so we were just like, it was realizing that where a service member and a veteran could come together and be considered equals. It's family court.
Because that's what you're doing with your nonprofit. I mean, she should follow Lynda on Facebook. She's always doing shit, not just for the veteran community, but for the community.
Period. Yeah.
Like
we're all have to live here.
We all have to live here. Like granted, she's Army, right? She's a veteran, but she's not only just helping our community, but she's making our community look even stronger by helping the community that we're in.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, because I just saw that you helped the lady with the tire.
Yeah.
Well, I was like, oh wow, that's like, because your passion is helping people.
Yeah, my
just
parents. Just
right?
helping parents.
Helping parents.
Yeah, nobody cares about parents.
Right.
Nobody helps parents. We're expected to fulfill our obligations to serve our country, make it to our children's, dance recitals, make sure our kids are at their reading level that they're supposed to be at, discipline them, and make sure they're not running out into the road. Go to your full-time job, serve your country, serve your community, take your kids to sports, have dinner cooked, and have a clean house,
right.
and pay your bills on time. And I'm over here, and I was like, okay, well, so what resources do we qualify for to get all this shit done?
Right.
Like, all of this is my responsibility.
Right.
Where's my like book of help, or like a direction, or like, does my neighbor give a shit? Like, at least when I was in the military, my gun crew cared.
Right.
And they had to care because we had to make sure those rounds were built properly and left out properly. And so when I realized as a civilian, nobody cares.
Right.
It was.
And they don't. And that is a society we live in. Nobody cares.
No.
If it doesn't have to do with us, I don't care.
If you're not going to pay me to do it, why am I going to do it?
I don't.
Right.
Care,
So everything I've done for no money. I am proving a point, and I have been proving this point now for a while.
Right.
It does not cost money to help people.
No, and they don't.
Time is yours to give.
Right.
You cannot pay somebody. You cannot pay me for my time when you have children who need a bed.
Right.
When you have to go to work in the morning and you're sleeping on, a mattress on the ground because you don't have a pump for your air mattress anymore. Like, I've been there with a parent, I've been there with a parent.
Right.
And so what I realized going into this field artillery position is it was normal for men to be expected to serve their community under those conditions. Normal.
Right.
When men go through a divorce, the majority of them do not keep their house, which means the majority of them are homeless. That's no divorce is the biggest thing that happens in the military.
Right, it is.
You know what I mean?
Because
how many of those men?
A lot of people, like I said, I bring a lot of guests on the show. They're on the second, third, fourth, fifth marriage.
Yeah.
And it's like,
we never thought about it.
Yeah.
How many times that man has been homeless but still made sure he was ready to deploy?
Right.
We've never thought about how many times that man has slept in his car in front of his duty station because his wife, kept the house.
Right.
And we expect these men to serve under that condition.
No,
so
absolutely.
when I got to the gun line and this, I'm listening to these men, I'm having them over at my house because what I experienced as a female, right, is now I'm finally building camaraderie with these men.
Right.
But all their fucking wives hate me. Because it's their second marriage.
Right.
And I'm over here like, I don't give two shits about you. Oh my gosh. So I started having them over at my house for dinner. And that's how I got so close with these men is I wanted to know what happened to their families. And I wanted to understand, like, second marriage, third baby mama, cool. Been there. Like, we're, And what I realized was by earning their respect, I earned the respect of their wives. Right. And then when we were out shooting on that gun line, it was so much easier for us to be able to break down those barriers because I cared about them as parents and as people. And when the Army Times came down and they still saw them as just soldiers, they didn't realize it was those men who was getting the dirt off my face for that interview. It was those men that that, we're making sure that we all packed up what we needed so nobody was out cold and raining. And when she made that comment to me, well, I can't wait for there to be a day where there's this all-female gun crew. And I just looked at her and I was like, there you go again, ruining my equality. Like, do you know how hard it was for me to do this job equally with these men?
Right.
And you want to sit here and say that I'm going to be above these men, or now somehow I've done this job without them? It's like you've already forgotten about their fatherhood, and now you want to forget about them on the gun line too, just because I'm standing here.
Right.
And she was just like, what?
What's going on? That's the diversity that we have in our country right now. It's there.
The Army didn't teach us how to be special.
Right. No.
You know, the Army taught me how to be a soldier.
Right.
Being a female on the gun line was no different than being a soldier on the gun line.
Right.
I just had to learn what I was going to do with that 1 week in a month. You know what I mean? Like, it was, you know, it had its own constraints, but it had nothing to do with the job.
No, absolutely.
And I felt that if I was going to stand honorably and be like, yeah, I passed those high physical demand tests. I ended up passing artillery school pregnant. You know, like, if I can sit here and give myself these accolades and these accomplishments, you know, for being a female accomplishing this, and I can equally say that these fathers are coming onto this gun line with more mental health problems than me and doing this job better, who am I?
Right.
And that's what I saw was a problem in the civilian world. Everybody wants to look at their own accomplishments or be acknowledged for what they've done without looking at the sacrifice that's been happening right next to them that they've done silently.
Right.
Silently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I represent fatherhood.
You represent fatherhood.
And co-parenting.
But I think that's one of the hardest things is just getting an understanding of listening to people and what's going on. You're listening to people. I mean, the way our society is right now, you catch it on my Wednesday episodes. Always talking about what's going on in our country, what's going on in our society right now. There's so much hate in our country against this guy or that guy or the color of your skin, whatever the fuck it is. You know what I'm saying?
What branch you serve?
What brand? You know what I'm saying? Us veterans, we get along better.
Yeah.
You know, Navy, Army, fucking
Guard.
Coast Guard.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know about Space Force. You know,
we're still, maybe next year.
Maybe, man. We'll figure it out.
I just got into the circle. Look, okay, guys, I just got into the circle.
We just said that Coast Guard could actually make it into the circle, right? Space Force is out there. We still don't know about them, you know. And that's the biggest. I mean, that's just one of the biggest struggles, like you said, is that nobody's reaching out to say, "How can I help you?" Yeah, how can I help you today? What are you struggling with? You need a sandwich. You need something to drink. You need a ride to work. You need to ride somewhere. You need me to help pick you up, pick something up for you, or whatever. You know? That's what's wrong with our country right now. We're so divided over well, you're left wing or you're right wing or whatever. Dude. I'm like, we live in the greatest country in the world. We are free to do whatever the fuck we want. I mean, you go to some of these other countries, no, you can only do this. You can only do this on this day. You can only do that. And a lot of people don't understand that. We're like, well, we should have socialism here. Why the fuck would we want to have socialism here? Where the fuck in the entire world has socialism ever
worked? They're all coming here.
You know what I'm saying? They're all coming here to get away from it. Like, where has it ever worked? The idea is great if everybody did their part.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and like what I do isn't socialistic.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, and I talk a lot about what I do from cultivating resources that are community driven.
Right.
Okay. And what I'm talking about is nobody would disagree that we need to reform.
No, absolutely.
We do. There's a lot of things that we do not do to the best of its ability. There's a lot of policies that we follow that are from 1930s.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we need a reform.
Right, absolutely.
But what people don't understand is a reform doesn't happen overnight because you show a problem.
Right.
If we're never talking about a solution and working through those kinks of what we think a solution could be, we're always going to stay having the same problem.
Yes.
And so what we're doing is another thing on my list. If, you know, making an app wasn't enough, you know.
Making an app and running a nonprofit, that ain't enough.
What else do I do? I'm actually helping to build an all-veteran-run community center full of all veteran-founded nonprofits who are not state or federally funded.
Okay.
And everybody's like, well, what does it matter if they're state or federally funded? That means I have to comply with policies that I don't agree with. That's a stipulation.
Because you're a nonprofit, you are not state or federally funded.
Not at all.
You are community funded.
100%.
You guys giving the donations, helping
Yes.
her to be able to provide for the community,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, so like all of our furniture is donated by neighbors. All of our gas comes from people who believe in what we do, and I furnish at least 150 houses a year for absolutely no money. Nobody pays me to do my job, and the money that we do receive gets us to the furniture for free for everybody.
Right.
So, like when we started doing this, it was furnishing fatherhood. We furnished homes for dads. We grew so much that we furnished houses for all parents. Okay, like as long as you have produced a child and you are trying to get from A to B and do what's best for you and your kids, like I will furnish your house. It's because that's who we were as soldiers.
Right.
You know,
We took care of each other.
I hated most of the soldiers I worked with, you know, like they were irritating. Some of them were retarded, but they still had a job to do. And
we still took care of
you
them.
still took care of them.
Took care of them. You guys know what it was like when you were serving. You always had that number that you're like, I hate this motherfucker. Like, I cannot stand him.
Yeah.
But you always make sure he had all the fucking resources he needed.
Yeah.
All the shit he needed in order to get the job done.
Yeah, in the army, we always say, you know, Joes don't mean to fuck you. Joes just do. That's civilians.
Right.
Like, I figured it out this whole last time. They were teaching me about civilians.
Right.
And so it's just learning, you know, that we learn these lessons in our service. And we learn those lessons so that we can apply them to the civilian world.
Right.
Because these civilians need help.
Right.
You know what I mean? They have a lot of great skills, but they don't understand what camaraderie is.
Yeah.
We're the only ones that can teach that.
Right. Absolutely. No,
You know?
absolutely. Like I said, I mean, that's the biggest struggle that we have is that camaraderie, is that we don't have that brother to right that's there with us every day. We lose the camaraderie. We move back home. We move somewhere completely away from everybody. You know, whatever isolation, whatever it is.
Or the media divided us and made us think that knowing each other's political views really matter.
Yeah,
you know?
it doesn't. It doesn't matter. Whatever your political views are, left wing, right wing, libertarian, or whatever the fuck you are, it doesn't matter. How are you as a human being?
Yep.
How are you as a human being? Do you care for other people's well-being?
Are you gonna pick your neighbors up if they fall?
Right, exactly.
You know, I would care more about that answer than if you voted for Biden.
Whoever the fuck
You know,
I don't care who you voted for. I really don't care. But what are you doing in your community to ensure that your community grows?
Exactly.
That it has a backbone, that it can stand on its own. Somebody gets a flat tire, how can you help them?
Yeah.
Somebody needs a fucking dinner, a hot meal, how can I feed them?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I said, we go to church, I go to church, and somebody has a baby or they just got a surgery, we do a meal train where people bring them meals on a daily basis. It's somebody different bringing them something. And it's cool because then you can look at it like, some of the food, like, how the fuck do they eat this every day? Like but it's a hot meal.
Still,
you know what I'm saying?
they
it's
care.
They care to say, hey, I want to bring you into my culture so you can see how I eat.
Yeah.
You know.
See, and I think we were blessed that way. You know, like we had that opportunity in the military to get to know other cultures.
Right.
You know, and even though I was guard or whatever, we still move around. Okay, guys? Like, we still eat food from other places too. You know, but like I grew up in Phoenix.
Right.
Most of my neighbors were Spanish.
Right.
Most of them didn't speak English, and we grew up very poor.
Yep.
And so, you know, through I guess another little situation I'll tell you about is when I was in the guard, I was 17 when I enlisted, and my mom found out I had gotten in contact with my biological father. Now, the guard signature is just like an active duty signature. Those people do not care.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're like, you signed on that dotted line. I'm like, but I'm homeless, and I'm living in Iowa now. What do I do?
Right.
And they're like, oh, we'll interstate transfer you. So I ended up, before even completing AIT, I was a homeless high school kid who lived in 4 different states. Ended up getting like a GED and all this other stuff, and I was in the guard. Well, at that time, experiencing what I did 4 years, my first 4 years in the guard, homeless, carrying around my gear around Oklahoma and Arkansas, and sleeping over, you know, in creeks and whatnot. Like, it was insane.
It is. I mean, for you to be able to do that, to be like, I was homeless and serving our country.
But
Which nobody should be.
Yeah,
nobody should be.
You would be surprised with how many of those flag wavers down in Oklahoma City that do the parking I've served with, that are serving today. Okay, National Guard soldiers who leave to go to Iraq, right, and come home to go live in a shelter. Like, so anyways, I was that soldier, And I picked up soldiers like that, and I fed soldiers like that. And, in order for me to get here and walk through that path, it took a lot of people who didn't have to care,
Right.
To pick me up if I didn't have a ride or, whatever. It doesn't go away. There's a new batch of soldiers going in right now.
Every fucking
Yeah.
That's what I was. I had another guest, another Jordan on the show. He's a transition coach, Brandon, and he's like, he said, there's an average about 200,000 service members that get out of service every year, and it's like, what are they being taught? How do I get out? Are they homeless? Because a lot of us this is what I tell the people, the difference between like enlisted and officers. Officers, you went to school and you got to live life before you joined the military. You got to understand what life was like. Me, I joined when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
I got my GED and fucking joined when I was 17. And so I didn't know what life was about. I didn't know what life had to give me. I didn't know. I worked at Albertsons for 6 months at a grocery store for 6 months. And so to understand, like you're saying, these guys are homeless, but yet they still haven't mount up and get ready for war.
What they know is they don't want to be or come from where they are.
Right.
And that's what leads us to our service.
Right.
And that's what we all had in common. And I think it was like a mutual understanding and respect of like, we all had shit childhoods.
Right.
And this is the equity we put into ourselves.
On the enlisted side, that a lot of us are coming from, we're running from something, or it was an ultimatum that we had to, or whatever it was. And that's what my wife said. She's like, that's what because my wife, she grew up very poor, very broken. She didn't have both parents. She moved all over the fucking place. She's got a hell of a story to tell you. You meet her, you never think. But you meet her, but she's like, that's what I love about Marines is that all you motherfuckers are broken. Every last one of you fuckers are broken.
Yeah.
And you guys come together as a community. You come together, and that's your fucking brother.
Yeah.
And you're always there. And she's like, in NFL, anytime we go anywhere, she's like, you can spot a fucking jarhead from a mile away, like that's a fucking Marine. And she's like, when you guys start talking, you guys just don't stop. You guys just talk and talk and talk.
Yeah.
And it's true, but for the enlisted side, you guys can relate. A lot of you enlisted, because I guarantee ain't a lot of officers watching this show. Because it's us, right? It's us. We talk about the shit because we already know that, hey, dude, you can't relate.
You don't understand.
You don't understand.
You're trying to figure out your compass.
Right.
You don't even
can't understand where we're coming from. But for you guys, that's one of the biggest things I stress here with you guys on the show is that we have to build our community. We have to make sure that our brothers to our left and to our right, regardless of the civilians or not, that they're taken care of. That's what Lynda's doing. She's like, I don't give a fuck if you're military or not. You have a purpose. You have a reason.
You're raising kids,
You're
man.
raising kids. You have kids. You have to make sure that you don't want the fucking state to take them. Right? Because when the state takes them,
the state's not going to tell you the policies that they have to adhere to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it becomes our responsibility to know.
Yeah.
And nobody gave us the tools.
No.
Right? What we want to do is teach civilians what those tools look like.
Right.
It's an accountability on your part to know the policy before you step in line.
Right.
It's something we had to learn the hard way. And getting civilians to understand, like, when you understand the policies, you understand when they're bullshitting you.
Right.
We've had moms who have come to me and said, hey, the police officer said if I don't give up where my baby daddy is, then my child's living in an unsafe living condition, and they could just take our child. And I was like, no.
No.
No. This is not happening. That is a lie. They do not do that. I was like, do you know what a POA is? And so writing powers of attorneys for parents is huge. Like, I have a 17-year-old mom coming to me with her 17-year-old baby daddy, who's trying to be accused of something he wasn't a part of, blah.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the power of attorney at your child's daycare on your person or where your child is, not in your presence, the state can take your child.
Damn, see,
you know what I mean? Like this, because we don't know to read those policies.
No, we don't.
And that's a scary thought.
It's a lack of knowledge.
Yes.
We're not. We live life, and we live life the best that we know how to live it.
Yes.
Without any guidance, without anybody providing resources and yourself to say, hey, you probably need to look into this.
Yeah.
You probably need to look into this and read up on this policy so that you can get a better understanding of where you need to be, where you're at, where you need to be.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so.
And it's just through, especially as being a parent, next time you have to go interact with somebody on behalf of being a parent, the easiest one is public schools. Go read all of the parental rights you have to sign off in order to enroll your child in public school. Like Putnam City schools, for instance, they have a behavioral report that they start on children from kindergarten, and it follows them through graduating year. Okay? My child got wrote up for domestic violence when he was 8. And I was like, excuse me? Like, domestic violence, assault, and battery. Okay? Seriously.
He's a grown man.
Yes. But they have, look it up, they have words like this, like extortion. Okay? And I'm like, are you talking about, like, telling somebody that the bubble gum costs you $20? Like, is that extortion of a kindergartner?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so what I found out is when I signed my children into these schools, I gave them the right to say what they wanted to put on that behavioral report. Now, I cannot have that report unless I ask the superintendent and he gives me permission. What?
Kind of shit is that, dude?
And that is one of the policies of enrolling your children in public schools, at least here.
I wonder who else, like what other schools.
So there's another one. Senate Bill blah 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 passed last year to where schools can now elect to hold a child back without the parents' consent if they do not pass their standardized test in the 3rd grade. And I went to my child's parent-teacher conference, and they were like, "Could you sign that you acknowledge this?"
No.
Signing anything means you agree to a policy, not acknowledge anything. Never sign anything.
Right,
You're
that's the one thing the military, I swear, has taught us.
Yes.
We read everything before we sign it.
Yes. And nothing I sign is an acknowledgement. Okay? Everything I sign is that I've approved something.
Right.
And so don't let them trick you with those words. But that's what I found out was happening to parents. And so I was just like, we have no more rights.
You don't.
The school has more rights to say if my child's educated than if I do.
Right.
The school has more rights to tell me about my child's behavior than I do.
Right.
And it was like everywhere I turned, I had to give up a right in order to accept a help or a resource.
That's fucking.
You want your child to be educated? Okay,
resources, right? And this is why you started your nonprofit.
So now everything I do, the reason why we're not state or federally funded is because I don't have to comply with policies.
There you go.
If you don't fund me, I don't have to comply with you. So nobody funds me.
That's fucking.
You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's what I learned in the Army.
We getting close to the end of the show, guys. It's been a great freaking. This has been a good show. Like I told you guys, I was excited to bring Lynda on the show. She's freaking doing amazing things in her community.
Thank you.
You're doing awesome things. Like I said, she found her purpose. She got out. She found her purpose. Her purpose is to help people. That's her love language.
Yeah.
You can look at it. Follow her on Facebook. You're going to see it. You're going to see she's always helping people in the community, regardless if they're freaking veterans or if they're not. It's her community. She's helping expand her community and find the resources that they need, man.
Yes.
What else you got for us, Lynda? What else you want to say about anything? You want to push your product, push your nonprofit, push your app? What else you got?
Okay, so get involved. I want to push this idea that it takes us caring about each other in order to make a difference. And if we choose to not care about each other, then we'll always choose to allow the state to care. We don't like how the state cares about us. The state does not care. We know from being service members that they didn't give 2 shits when we got out.
Right.
We're still fighting them today.
Right.
The state doesn't care as much as your neighbors can. What I do is what we can all do. I do it with a purpose to say it is free. Nobody pays me to do this. We just help each other. Because that's what I learned how to do. If you would like to get involved, come out. You can find me on Facebook, Lynda with a Y, Steele. Find me on the web at childsworth.org or monitoryourrights.com, and I'll be around.
See, guys, like I said, she's doing some awesome things. Like I tell you guys, don't forget to smash that subscribe button or wherever you at. If you're on iTunes, apparently you can leave me a 5-star review letting me know this is a good show. I don't know how this shit works. I'm still trying to learn the algorithms. I don't know how algorithms work. But like I said, guys, I'm always bringing on our family, my family on the show to show you, hey, there's a purpose out there. You get out, what's your rhyme and reason? Why did you get out? What do you want to do? What's your purpose? How are you building your community? You can build your community with Lynda because she's going to help you. That's her. That's what she does.
What I do.
She helps you get where you want to be, man. Appreciate it, Lynda. Appreciate you coming out, hanging out with me this Friday.
Yes.
I love it. I love doing this, guys. I thank you guys for hanging out with us this Friday. Remember, guys, I'm on every platform: iTunes, Spotify, Geeter, iHeartRadio. Soon to be on freaking Pandora as soon as they approve it. It's everywhere. If I'm not out there where you can listen to me on your drive to work, let me know so I can upload it so you guys
Supposed to
can
get my mind right. Shit. Trying to get my
guys
grind
hanging out
right.
with me and living
Fight
on this
for
Friday,
respect.
man.
Smoke just to chill.
Remember, subscribe.
Waiting on the
Let me
president.
know.
Shit
Speak
getting
up what you
real.
think, what I can
Looking in
make
my
sure
resume.
better.
Niggas
Remember, got
stand
your tits
still.
on fit.
When your life
Got your
going
tits
down,
on.
grab a pound. Smoke, chill, relax. It's Friday. You ain't got a job. We gon' get high today. Dark of the flesh. The deeper the roots. Green of the weed. You know this is true. Puff, puff, pass. Trying to get